Did you just touch the back of my head?
From here?
Something just went to the back of my head. Something just tapped me on the back of the head.
Yeah, okay.
I swear to God, Dwayne, he just tapped me on the back of the head. He just went boom like that on the back of my head. I swear to God. Can you do it again, please?
Brother!
Hey folks, how is everybody? I hope everybody's good. I'm glad you're all here. So this is actually the first time I've done this, been on this end of things. That little video intro I just played, that's actually the very first time I got touched on the back of the head by Neff. I'm quite confident it was Neff, one of his family, but he was the one that was very involved at the beginning. So that I was glad I had my video camera running, and you can tell by my reaction, it was I was just completely caught off guard, and I knew Dwayne wasn't standing near me when it happened, but I still asked him. I was in shock. I think I mentioned it about a half a dozen different times there. Anyways, so I'm excited to do this tonight and have a gent I recently met, Michael Bleuler. He's from Mississippi, and he has a just incredible encounter story that I know everybody's going to enjoy. I was blown away by it. It's not filled with high strangeness and all that. There's a little bit of stuff in there, but it just so detailed. And his encounter, I was on the phone with him the other night for roughly an hour and a half, and he told me that, and I said, "Oh man, I got to get you on here," and sharing that story with others. He has before on other platforms, but so I'm happy to have him here. So, anyways, going to bring him on. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Glad to have you.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
All right. I'm, happy to have you on here, and I'm sure people are looking forward to hearing your story. As I just mentioned, it's just incredibly detailed. The most detailed encounter I've ever heard anybody speak, So I told them all you're from Mississippi, and, if you want to lead us into it and let us know, I'm done. I'm all ears.
All right, man.
It's all yours.
Well, first of all, Mike, I want to thank you for having me tonight. You were one of the first guys after I had my encounter that I when I started trying to understand what I seen. You was one of the first channels that I went to. It was between you and Wes Gurman off of Sasquatch Chronicles and a few other guys. But as far as the interdimensional stuff, you're the one that pretty much taught me about that. So the best way I can paint this picture, guys, I'm going to give you a little backstory. My name's Michael Bleuler. I'm from Biloxi, Mississippi. That is southern Mississippi. I'm 47 years old. I was just about to turn 45 when this happened to me. I did 13 and a half years in the U.S. Army. I had four tours in Iraq, and 16 years later, this happened. So I'm an avid hunter. I'm an avid whitetail hunter. I live for it. I've been doing. My father showed me how to hunt when I was just a little boy. When I say little boy, 6 or 7 years old, I was in a tree stand with him. It goes back that deep. I've been all over the country hunting. I've even hunted in Canada and Alberta. Took the biggest buck of my life over there. So let me paint the picture a little bit about Mississippi and the way it goes down here. In Mississippi, this is probably going to blow a lot of people's minds, people that's not from here, but we have 2 dog seasons And when I say dog seasons, it's where they use dogs to actually hunt deer. They'll circle off a big area, and they train these dogs as pups. When they kill a deer, they let it eat all the innards and everything. That way, it's used to the smell. And once they get on a track, they go and they'll chase a deer through a big plot of woods, and there's hunters, on the receiving end. And as soon as it hits the road, it's dead. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think that is hunting. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of drinking that goes on and stuff like that. It's some real hillbilly stuff. I just don't like it. I'm a still hunter. When there's 2 seasons of this, and when these seasons come around, I can't hunt on any public land that's around me because it's all dog hunters. And I think the first season's 2 weeks, and the second season's like 3 weeks. So what a lot of guys do that's like me, they'll go to like a wildlife management area, and that is it's a little bit different than just national forest. It's acres and acres. It's taken care of very well by the game wardens and stuff like that. It's a still hunter's paradise. Very strict. You go in there, you're going to get checked. It's no BS, no nothing like that. Well, where I live, Biloxi, Mississippi is in Harrison County, Mississippi. I used to go up 2 counties up to a wildlife management area. It was called Leaf River Management Area. Well, it's still called that. There was this you have to drive like right slap in the middle of it. And it's nothing but dirt roads. There's, once you get off the blacktop, you probably have another 45 minutes of driving just, through dirt roads to get where you want to go. Well, there was this particular ryegrass plot. It was huge, Mike. It was probably 200 yards wide and close to 1,000 yards long. And it had power lines that ran adjacent to it, north and south. I used to go down the power lines and get behind that ryegrass field. And the way the woods are shaped, it's almost like a triangle. It's on the east side of the power lines. I always call it the wedge because it looks like a wedge. And there was this particular pine tree that I used to climb up because it was like the perfect tree. You get up, I always get up really high. I get 30 foot, 40 foot, 50 foot sometimes on a good day. If the wind's not blowing too bad, I'll get up really high. And the reason I have to do that is because the woods in Mississippi is so thick with undergrowth. It's so thick, like every other year they have to do prescribed burns just to knock it down just a little bit. Mississippi is a subtropical climate, so it's really nasty, thick, nothing but goldberry bushes, briar bushes, all the nasty stuff. I used to have to get up really high because of the undergrowth. That way I can, halfway see decent. The power lines, they cut that every year. So I was the only view I would really have is either straight out in front of me or anywhere on the power lines that's north and south. And I'm one of them guys, when I go hunting, I always get up super early. Say it's getting dark at 5:30. I'm going to be up the tree at 1 o'clock. And that's just to get my smell out the woods. And I always hunt the wind too, because deer they're very keen on their sense of smell. That's what they use to survive. They don't see very well, but the deer in Mississippi are also very skittish. I mean, you have to be really careful. I mean, you can't even blink, and that's because of the hunting pressure in Mississippi. I used to get behind this field, and sometimes people would just get right up on the field, but these deer are smart, and they will not come out and eat until it's like pitch black dark. That they know people are out of the woods. And it was December the 16th, 2020. I'll never forget it for as long as I live. It was a normal day. I got up like 1 o'clock and got positioned and sat, and I never like pull my cell phone out or anything. When I hunt, I hunt. It was just a normal day, Mike, and got to be probably about 4 o'clock. I had no action at all, and it was kind of weird to me. You know, I would always at least, you know, see one, something I didn't want to shoot, or, you know, catch a piece of one. It was just nothing, just nothing. And it, you know, I was pretty puzzled about it. And then all of a sudden I heard something behind me. It's important for your viewers to know I'm facing west. Whatever's coming behind me is coming out of the east.
You're up in a tree stand, right?
Yes, I'm 30 foot up. I'm 30 foot up. Something comes behind me, and it sounds pretty heavy, whatever it is, but it's not like coming in really fast. It's like crunch, crunch, crunch. The first thing I'm thinking, we have a lot of hogs, and I'm thinking it's a big hog. You know, the way it's breaking limbs when it's walking. It's really loud, and it's either a hog or it's a really big deer. It's a good buck. It's something. It comes in really slow, and it gets about 40 yards to the right of me and stops. And I'm looking for it, and I cannot see it because of the undergrowth. Whatever it is, it sounds big, and I start hearing like breathing, almost like labored breathing, like maybe a little bit of congestion or something like that. And it just stops. And I'm thinking, you know, what is this? I was thinking maybe it was a deer that got shot, or a hog that got shot, and maybe it's the blood in its lungs is making all that noise. And you know, it lasted for about 5 minutes, and everything just got quiet. I no longer heard it. And, you know, I was kind of mad because I'm like, I didn't get to even see what it was. So I finally come to terms and said it was probably a deer or a hog, and it either got my wind or it just slipped out, and I just didn't hear it go. So it gets to be about 4:20, 4:30ish, and it's the time of the day when the sun is it's up over the trees just a little bit, but I'm being completely blinded. I pulled my hat down, and I'm just trying to fight this sun, you know. And all of a sudden, in my right peripheral, on the north side of the power lines, I look down and I see something black on the power lines. It's about 150 yards away. It was on all fours, whatever it was. And first thing I thought it was a black bear, because we do have black bear in Mississippi. We don't have a big abundance of them, but we do have them. You know, the state has released them. I've had them. I know they're here because I've picked them up on trail cam before. They usually have like an orange collar on or something like that. It's something the state released.
Can I just ask a quick question? I just want to mention something. Did you have any prior interest in this subject? You know, anything on your mind that, you know, before that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I didn't know anything about these creatures or anything like that. And it wasn't that I didn't believe in it. It just wasn't really on my radar. You know, anything that I've seen in the woods can be explained. I've been in the woods all my life, this, that, and the other. I do briefly remember when I was a kid, they would have like the freak shows. They would show the Patterson Gimlin and stuff like that. And I don't know if I didn't believe it. I was real little, but I was kind of, you know, if it does exist, that's a problem out in the Northwest, not in Mississippi. You're never going to see nothing like that. That's pretty much where I was at.
Yeah.
I looked at this thing, and it was on all fours. So I shifted to the right in my tree stand. I put it in scope. And I couldn't see it too good, so I had to power my scope up. And by the time I got my scope on it really good, it was sitting down. And when I say sitting down, it's not like what you would think a bear would do. The way, you know, I've Googled pit, you know, since I've had my encounters, I've Googled pictures of bear sitting down. It looked nothing like that. It was so out of the ordinary. It's like he was sitting down. He had his hands on the side of him, and his left hand, he was digging in the dirt. All I could see was the back of his head. He was facing the same way I was, and he was sitting down, had his knees up. Excuse me. Getting that time of the year where the pollen's making my nose drip a little bit. Allergies. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
I started looking at him really good, and I panned in on him, and the first thing I noticed, I'm thinking bear the whole time. The first thing I noticed was the hair on its back. The hair on its back wasn't what I was looking for, like an undercoat of a dog or a bear, something with a double undercoat like that. It was hair, man. It was human hair on his back, and it was long. When I say long, it was long like Nikki Sixx, Motley Crue, hairband long on his back. It was big and it was long. I could see the skin through the hair. It was ashy gray looking. It was really ashy gray looking. And I panned up to the top of its head, and the top of its head was really gorilla looking, a little bit more conical shaped in the back. And I was just looking at it, man. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know, I think at this point, maybe I was in shock. I got a million things going on in my head. What is this? Is this just some kind of monster, or is this some idiot in the woods playing a trick on me? If it's somebody doing that, they have a death wish. That my mind's going in a million directions.
What's the distance?
150, 160 yards.
Okay.
Yeah, give or take. So every once in a while, I would look at him through the scope, and then I would look up from the scope with my regular eyes, just to make sure I was looking at what I was looking at, because I don't know what it is. And there was a point where he turned his head to the left a little bit, and I got to see I just got to see, let's see how I can do this in the camera. I got to see a piece of his nose and just a piece of one of his eyes. The eye was solid black. It had no whites in the eye, no nothing like that. It looked like he had like a black marble for an eye. I remember seeing that, and I seen the side of the nose. The nose was very, it was hooded like ours. I just seen like a piece of a nostril. I'm looking for a snout the whole time. I'm looking for a bear. I still have bear in my mind. I'm not seeing a snout. I've seen a piece of his mouth, the hooded nose, and just out of desperation, I yelled out, I just said, "Hey," in case it was, somebody just being an idiot out there. When I did that, all in one motion, he puts his hands on the ground and he just pops on. He pops on 2 feet like it's nothing. Like it's nothing. Give or take, after seeing, I'll get to the part where I see him, but he was probably, this guy, he had to weigh probably at least 800 to 1,000 pounds. He was big, man. He was big. And to just pop up on 2 feet like that, a big guy that's 400 pounds sitting down in the grass would have to roll over, and it would take him a while to get up. This guy just popped up. When I did that, when he popped up on 2 feet, he started walking in an oval shape, about a 30-yard oval shape, and he was scanning trees. He was looking down the power lines. Every now and then he would look my way, and then he screamed. When he screamed, it's the same thing that everybody's talking about. It was like a draw up from the gut, and when he let it loose, it was like being next. I always tell people it's like the mixture between a lion roar, an elephant, and standing next to a train. You know how a train, like when it blows its horn and like rattles your body, or if you're next to a speaker at a concert, it rattles your insides. It was just like that. He started looking, and there was a point where he looked my way. He didn't really lock eye to eye with me, but he seen something.
How like when he screamed, how did you feel? Like, what did it do to you?
Well, I think I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what it was. Sasquatch is still not coming to me for some reason. I think it's a monster of some sort. I didn't know what it was. There was a point where he looked at me, well, my way, and he stopped, and his eyes got really big. And let me remind your viewers, when I hunt, if there's any hunters that's in the chat or anything like that, no hunter ever wants to be skylined. And what I mean by that is you want to blend in behind you. You know, I always hunt with a mask on. Always have trees behind me. I'm never up over the trees where you're just sticking out. I mean, deer bust you like that. He looked my way and he was like confused. He looked, and then he would look back down the power line, and he'd look the other way. He'd look behind him, and then he would look at me again. And I just waved at him. I said, I'm right here. When I did that, you know, when you look at a lot of Bigfoot stuff, you know, footage of Bigfoot, it's always them, you know, running away or walking in the bush. You know, they don't want to be seen, stuff like that. That didn't happen in my case. He walked straight to me. He starts walking towards me, and I looked down at my gun and I unbolted it just to make sure I had one in the chamber. And when I slammed it shut, was all of about 4 seconds. When I looked back up, he was 30 yards away from me, from 160 yards. Now you explain that.
That's the high strangeness part I was mentioning earlier. There's not a lot in this, but that part, yeah. When you turn your back for a second, and
he's right there. Unless there was some missing time I didn't know about, but I don't think so. When he was walking to me, a lot of people say, well, what did he look like when he walked to you? The best way I can explain it, and I told you, Mike, the other day, the motion he was making was like he was on a pair of snow skis, big, long strides, and it was just so paranormal looking. Oh, man, I see that walk all the time, man. I see it, and I see it in my head all the time. It was just crazy. He gets to me about 30 yards. I put him back in the scope, and it's just a big black blob. So I had to power my scope back down to the correct yardage, and that's when I really got to see him. I got to see him really good. Every time I would draw down on him, he would turn his head to the side like this and look at me with one eye, and he was giving me the look like, don't you do it. Don't you do it. That's why I think these things, they definitely know what guns are. I think so. I got to see the emotions in his face. He was very puzzled looking. The face was pronounced black. The face, when I say pronounced black, it really looked, and I know it was probably just his natural color, but it looked like he took a paintbrush with black paint and painted his face black. It was that black. Real leathery looking. His forehead was huge. His mouth was really big. I remember the mouth was really big. I looked down. I looked at his. I got to see the whole thing. I panned down at him, and I remember he was really barrel chested. He had, I don't know if they bite their fingernails, but he didn't have long fingernails. They were jacked up looking, but he had dirt up under his fingernails where he was digging. And this went on for a while, man. I would say this went on. It was basically a staring contest for the best of about 20 minutes. He wasn't going anywhere. This guy, I mean, it was crazy. The eyes.
So he's standing about. You mentioned me before.
30 yards.
30 yards away. Okay. Sorry.
Yards.
Yes, and the eyes.
He would never get any closer, but he would never get any further. It was like he was standing his ground. And I don't know. There was a point where I was wondering if I was actually going like clinically insane. The eyes were solid black, but they weren't like completely round. They had a little bit of an almond shape to it. I remember seeing his eyelashes. His eyelashes were long too.
I just, sorry to interrupt again. I just want to say too, when you described the eyes the first time to me, black and kind of almond shape, that's not very, Most people don't know that, and that's the shape of Neff's eyes, black and kind of almond shaped. So when you told me that, I thought, okay, this guy's.
Yeah. He there was a point. Every now and then he would shuffle a certain way or do something with his face where that scared me a little bit, and I'd get ready to shoot. And every time I drew down on him, he would do the same thing. He did. This happened probably 4 or 5 times. He would turn his head to the side. He wouldn't turn his body. He would turn his head to the side and look at me with one eye. It was like he would go back just a little bit, and it was almost like he was telling me, "Don't you do it. Do not do that." Man, there's so much, man, and there was so much that happened in a short amount of time. There was a point where he did like a yawn. I don't know if that's something what they do, but when he yawned, that's when I got to see his teeth. His teeth, they were square like ours, not exactly like ours. They were big. They were like big square chiclets. That's the best way. Kind of like horse teeth, but even wider and thicker than that. The inside of his mouth, his gums were like either black or really dark purple. The hair on the top of his head was nothing like the hair on his chest or his back. That the hair on the top of his head was just spiky, like a gorilla. And it didn't have long hair on the top of the head. There was a point where he started getting a little bit of, kind of antsy. And yeah, that's when I pretty much lost it. I put him back in the scope, and I looked at the sun. The sun is now past the trees, and it's going to set. And I'm thinking to myself, whatever this is, I pretty much knew what it was at this point in time. There's probably a point in time where I thought, okay, this is a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, what everybody's talking about. I don't remember thinking that, but I'm pretty sure I knew what it was at the time. There was a point where he was getting antsy, like almost like seeing what I was going to do next. So I said, I got to get out of here. I mean, he's not going anywhere. He's going to kill me. He's waiting for it to get dark, and he's either going to come shake me out of this tree, or he's going to knock me out, or he's going to get me out of this tree, and he's going to kill me. So my throat's getting dry, man. I'm nervous, man. I'm sorry. I get a little shooken up because this is really kind of the worst part of the encounter.
Take your time. It's all good. We're not in any rush.
Let me get a drink of water. Hold on. Okay. I put him in the scope, and this time he didn't turn his head to the side. He's just sitting there looking at me. I put the crosshairs between his eyes. I didn't put it like dead, like between his eyes. It was more up on his forehead a little bit. And I said, it's now or never. You got to do something. And I exhaled, and I went to squeeze off on him, man. And I got about halfway through the squeeze, and I couldn't do it. Mike, I couldn't do it.
I'm glad you didn't.
I couldn't.
And you probably wouldn't have left those woods if you did.
He was so human looking in the face, it was ridiculous. I was thinking maybe this is somebody's dad, maybe this is some kind of people we don't know about, but he was just so human looking in the face. I could not squeeze off on him. I couldn't do it. I at this point I'm batshit, man. But Mike, I couldn't do it, Mike. It was like I was killing a person if I did it. And that's how I felt. I'm like, okay, if I kill this thing and I go get a game warden or authority figure of some, am I going to go to prison for the rest of my life? Is this a person that is this a tribe of people that we don't know about? I had all this going in my head, and I finally gave up, man. And I took the gun off of him, and I set it on the side of me in the tree stand, and I stood up and I waved my hands at him, and I said, "What do you want?" When I did that, everything changed. Everything changed. He screamed again. And this time I got to see it from 30 yards away. And I hope to God nobody ever has to see the way they scream, or at least the way he did. It was a draw up, just like on the power line, but when he let it loose, his whole face distorted. Like his eyes, his nose, his mouth, his teeth, like shot out and protruded in the front of his face. And when he was done, it just went back to normal. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was something out of a DC comic book. It was so unbelievable looking. And I'm surprised, to be honest with you, I'm surprised I didn't soil myself. He gets back on all fours and he shoots back across the power lines on all fours. A lot of people will say, well, what did that look like? The best way I can explain that is if you ever look at like a big dog, like a Great Dane, you know how they run and it's kind of lerpy looking, kind of ridiculous and stupid looking. It looked just like that, but it was super fast. He gets on the other side of the power lines and he is ripping up gallberry bushes by the roots and chunking them out in the middle of the power lines. He's knocking trees down. He's not knocking like full-grown pine trees down, but small trees. He is just mowing through there, and he is like every 10 or 15 seconds he does that scream. He's grunting, he's screaming, but he's going further north on the west side of the power lines. I'm on the east side. He's going further north. I grab my gun and I'm fine. You know, I'm trying to get eyes on him because I don't know what he's going to do next. He gets probably about 60 or 70 yards north, and then he shoots back on my side. And when he shot back across, I seen it. It was just a black flash. It was that fast. Now he is on my side, but he's north of me, and he just keeps going and going and going and going. But he's still hollering, screaming. There was a point where I heard a tree, like a fresh tree break. It was fresh too, man. It was that smack, you know, that snap, crackle, pop, and it was. But he's done gained some distance. I know it's him, and when I didn't feel safe coming out, man, I psyched myself out a couple times. Finally, he got a little bit further again, and I come out of the tree. And I'm in one of them tree climbers. You know, you sit on the platform, and there's a bottom platform. You use your feet. You just go up the tree. To get as high as I was about 30 foot, 30, 35, somewhere in there. It usually takes me about 20 to 22 jacks to get up. I was down in 10. I left my book bag up there. I had hundreds of dollars worth of hunting equipment up there. I had Leopold binoculars that are $200. You know, I left it all. The only thing I did is I took my rifle and I had a sling on. I slung it on my back and I come down that tree and I start running down the power lines. You know, it's full adrenaline at this point. He's still screaming. I start running down the power lines. I'm roughly 600 or 700 yards from the truck. It's a long way, man.
And how far were the screams roughly at this point?
At that point, probably about anywhere from about 150 to 200 yards north of me. But it's still loud. It's still real loud, man. I start running down the power lines, and I'm getting it. I'm scared for my life. I don't know, you know, I don't know how I didn't stroke out or have a heart attack. Still to this day, I don't know. I was that scared, man. I start running down the power lines, and this was 2 years ago. I was a little out of shape at the time. I was a little heavier than what I am now. I start running and I get whooped. A fast run goes to a fast walk. And I start walking and I hear something on the side of me in the woods. It's about 30 foot in the woods, 40 foot in the woods. And I picked up the run again because I heard it. He's still lighting it up back there. I picked up the run and whatever it is on the side of me now is matching me step for step. Step for step. When I stop, it would stop.
Another one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what it's definitely another one. I didn't know what it was at the time, though. I'm still freaking out about, old boy back there, I start running, and there's a point on this power line. It's about the halfway mark. There's this plateau that comes out on the power lines. It's not real big, man. It's only about that high. It's not big, but it comes out on the power line. It only goes about halfway. I've hunted this spot a million times. I always told myself that you're halfway to your truck when you get there. So I'm running, and I stopped real quick, and it stopped, and it was like whatever the thing on the side of me, when it stopped, I knew something was following me because it took like an extra step, and then it stopped. I didn't really stick around to see what it was, man. I started running again, and I noticed this thing that's on the side of me. It's closing in on me because of the way the woods are shaped. When I get to this plateau, it's going to have to reveal itself because the way the woods are shaped. And it kept going on and on, man. When I would stop, it would stop. I would start running, it would run, match me step for step. I get to the plateau and I cracked a shot in the air. When I cracked a shot in the air, I was using a 7mm Magnum. It's a fairly big gun for Mississippi. I like to use it because there's usually not much of a track job when I'm done killing a deer. That's what they use to hunt, moose and elk with. It's a big gun. When I shot, everything stopped, Mike. Everything stopped. Everything. It got dead quiet, and I didn't stick around to find out why it was quiet. I'm trying to get to my truck. I get past the plateau. I no longer have whatever it was on the side of me following me. I don't even hear him back there anymore. It's just quiet. I'm running. I crest this hill. Mississippi doesn't have a whole lot of mountains. We have like one mountain, and it's on the top of the state. But we do have a lot of hills. And this power lines, there's a lot of hills. I crested the hill, and I seen my truck, but it was still way down there, man. It was still probably 300 yards away. I couldn't even see my tires or my doors. It was just, I can see the top of my truck. When I see my truck, man, I caught another gear I didn't know I had. I get just about to my truck, and I can hear my conscience in my head tell me, Mike, don't stick around. Don't be curious. Get out of here. You got lucky. Get out of here. Don't ever come back here. I listened. I get to my truck. I stuck the key in the door, and when I stuck the key in the door, I heard one last scream, and it was way back there. But it wasn't like what I heard the first time. It was more like a baboon screech, like the Carrie Arnold talks about this in his encounter also. It's I guess his did the same thing, but it was like a baboon screech, and then it was like the crack of a whip. It was loud, and it was way back there. I got in my truck, and this road makes a cul-de-sac. Okay, you go down about 2 miles, and there's a turnaround. I wasn't gonna pass back through there. There was no way. I backed my truck up in a ditch, almost got stuck, got out of there, and it's nothing. I'm in the middle of the management area. I'm every corner. The ass end of my truck is slinging around. I probably almost wrecked a dozen times coming out of there. I finally hit blacktop, and I'm going down Highway 26, and I'm going as fast as my truck will go. I mean, a little over 100 miles an hour, probably. I hit Highway 15 back to the coast. I get home, open the front door. I was living by myself at the time, and I remember I was clutching my gun the whole time. I didn't even want to get out of my truck, and I was in the city. It was, it was nighttime. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to process it. I mean, how am I gonna tell somebody that I've seen an 8-foot gorilla that stands on 2 feet, but not really a gorilla? How do you tell people that? I remember throwing the gun on the bed, my bed, and this is wintertime now. It's in the 30s outside, which is cold for Mississippi. I remember Fahrenheit, not Celsius. Um, I remember putting the shower on as cold as it would go and just laying in the fetal position for about an hour. I remember getting out of the shower and just passing out on the couch. And I woke up the next morning, and Mike, I thought it was all a dream. To be honest with you, I thought it was just a nightmare. I walked into my room and I seen my gun on my bed. It wasn't no dream, was it? Took a toll on me, man.
Yeah, that's those are all the details you told me, and when we talked on the phone. It's yeah, I can understand that would be absolutely traumatizing. So, I'm glad you came out of it, and I'm glad you didn't pull that trigger.
Yeah,
And
I am, because I'm educated on the subject now. I was not educated, and there's a few things. There's another thing. I can remember the arms went past the knees a little bit. I can remember he was cut up, man. He was big, but he had a lot of muscle definition, man. His biceps were big, but it was like his forearms were bigger than his biceps, and he had long, like, I'm trying to do this. He had long ghillie suit looking hair hanging off of his forearms. I do remember that too. It was freaky, man. A lot of people want to know what I think they are. I don't know what they are. I think, that either we're part of them or they're part of us because of the human looking. I don't want to say it was 100% human looking either, because the cheekbones were really high, almost Native American looking, but more like monstrous, more like more Neanderthal looking in the face, more caveman looking. I wasn't looking in the face of no ape. There's no way. It was too human looking. The mouth was big. The mouth, he didn't have big lips. He just had a very big mouth. I mean, when he did that yawn, you can put a whole cantaloupe in his mouth. Whole cantaloupe. Maybe even a little small watermelon. It was ridiculous.
yeah, I can imagine.
For about the first couple of weeks after that, I was starting to question my sanity. If I even really seen that at all, or if it was just, or if I'm just went insane.
How long ago was this now, Mike?
This was December 16th of 2020, a little bit over 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something, man. We did go back to the spot. I wanted to retrieve my stuff. It was more than a year after. I brought a crew with me back in. We was all packing. My tree stand was it was still in good shape. It had a little rust on it. Some stuff I would have to sand off. But everything that was in my book bag was gone, man. The book bag itself, it was dry rotted. All the stuff was rusted out. It was, and the reason I was looking down at him, he looked like to be about 6 to 6.5 foot. But there was a dogwood tree that he was next to that he wouldn't like duck his whole body, but he would move his head around it every now and then. And I looked at that limb. That limb was easy 8 foot. So I know he was 8 foot plus. He was a big boy. Mike, I've talked to a lot of people about this encounter. I get different people saying different things. Some people say that was the female that followed me out. Maybe it was one of his kids. I didn't get a visual on it, so I can't say for sure what it was. But I mean, come on. I mean,
Yeah, I would think of it. If it was a female, you might see some breasts or something like Patty. I think too that if it came to a situation like that, maybe I don't know if a female would be so inclined to come out in your face like that so much. It sounds to me like it was definitely a male, but I don't know.
Yeah. There's two things that stick out. Not that I was looking for it, but I never seen its feet. I wasn't looking for it. Maybe they, I mean, these things leave tracks and stuff, but I just don't remember seeing its feet. I don't remember seeing it. Maybe it'll come back to me. They say when you have a traumatic experience like that, sometimes you don't remember everything. Sometimes, and it takes a little while for it to come back to you. I did, and I can account for that because when I finally got the courage to tell my story, it was on Sasquatch Chronicles, and it wasn't as detailed because there's stuff that came back to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was still pretty much the same story, but I mean, there's a few extra things that I picked up on, throughout time.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
So I did have a little something happen to me this year too. It was no visual or nothing like that. Did I tell you about that?
I'm not sure. You have to refresh me.
So it's only been 2 years, and hunting's my passion. Okay, it's something I look forward to every year. I'm an avid fisherman and an avid hunter. The following hunting season came around, and I couldn't go in the woods. I could if I had somebody with me, but I couldn't get up a tree by myself and stay in the dark. There was just no way, not after that. So this year hunting season come around, and a couple months before archery season come in, I was getting to the point to where I was scouting again a little bit. And when I say scouting for deer sign and stuff like that, putting trail cams out, starting to think, that happened to you. Don't let it ruin your life. Just be more careful, be more attentive, stuff like that. And I hunted a couple times till dark. I don't go as deep in the woods anymore. I won't get too far from my truck anymore. I just can't. I can't do it. Just
understandable.
Something happened to me again this year. I'm pretty sure it was them, but I don't know it to be a fact. I was hunting a different spot, probably about, give or take, 50 or 60 miles from my encounter spot, further west, right on the Mississippi River. I was hunting in a bottom, a little bit different kind of situation. I was on highland with my first encounter. I was hunting in a bottom, which in some states you might call it a holler or something like that. It's just basically downhill. It's really wet, but you can see really good in bottoms. It's not as thick because of the water. I was hunting. It was archery season. I had my crossbow, but I always keep a pistol with me now. And I hunted until dark, man. And right when I was about to get out my tree, I used to always hunt until you can't see anymore. When I say you can't see anymore, you can't see anything with your eyes, but you can still look through the scope and see pretty good. When you can't see out of your scope anymore, it's time to pack up and go because you're not going to be able to see what you're shooting at. It was about that time, and I heard a tree knock in front of me. It wasn't very far away either. Probably, I do everything by yards, man, because that's what hunters. We don't use feet; we use yards. Especially, when it comes to rifles and stuff like that. I want to say it was probably 30 yards away, which would be 90 feet. I heard a tree knock. And straight behind me, I hear an answer. I heard a tree knock. I heard a whistle from the same spot, and it sounded a lot like a human whistle. And let me remind you, this spot is out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, if you look at it on Google Earth, there's nothing for miles and miles and miles away. Did he smell? I didn't get a smell. No. I hear about these things that supposedly they stink really bad. I never got a smell. I was just answering your question that come up.
Yeah, I've learned that they can create smells, different smells, both good and bad, and they can turn them on and off like a light switch. I've learned this through Neff's family, and I'm talking about they can recreate. It seems like any smell, and it seems to be basically any sound as well, right? So, anyways, what you're describing with the wood knocks and the whistles just makes me wonder if perhaps after that encounter, they've been watching you. I don't know, and
Yeah.
if there's a connection there, I don't know.
Yeah. I heard like a sharp whistle, and it was almost like a human whistle, but it was a lot more sharper. And I got an answer behind me, just like on the tree knock. I said, no, I'm not doing this again. No, I come down my tree, left my stand. I got my crossbow on my shoulder. I got my pistol. The first thing when I got down the tree, I took my pistol out of my bag and I put it on my belt. I said, I'm not doing this again. I walk out, going down to this bottom. I was coming down a hill. There's a main trail from my truck. I was only probably 200 yards from my truck. I was very close. If somebody would have, it was a one-way road too, Mike. Yeah. Do you want me to read that, or do you want to read it?
I think everybody can see it. Basically, do you feel they marked you, know where you are, where you live, which I was basically, just kind of stating.
Like I said, in the last 2 years, Bigfoot has become a fascination. I try to find all the answers. You'll never know all the answers, but people have mentioned that if you've had a face-to-face encounter before, they say chances are that it's like they got you marked. It's like if you go to another spot where there's Bigfoot activity or other Sasquatch creatures, they're going to let themselves be known. I mean, it's speculation at the end of the day. There's this huge hill that I had to go down to get to this bottom where I was hunting. I come out of that bottom and I took a sharp left to start making that hill to come back up. And as soon as I turned to the left, I heard like a loud grunt to my right. Could have been a pig. It was just a loud grunt. Didn't have a visual. I emptied my magazine, man, and I know I shouldn't have done that. I shot into nothing. Very, very dangerous, very irresponsible to do something like that. But it was the fear. The fear took over, man. It's like it's happening again. And another thing I want to tell you guys is when I hunt, and it's probably going to be like this for the rest of my life. Anytime I hear anything, oh my God, it's happening again. You're going to be like that when you have an encounter. You think everything's Bigfoot. It does that to you. You just have to be careful, and you just got to, pay attention.
Have you ever set the intention to experience Sasquatch, or did it just happen to you? I know that just happened to you, but have you ever set your intention to experience them at all?
No, I'm scared. I'm afraid of them, man. I don't want to experience them anymore.
Yeah, I figured that. It seems to me from what you were saying though, that they might have their eye on you, but you also got to take into account when you did have that experience, they didn't touch you. You weren't hurt.
Right. Oh, I definitely got spared for sure. Definitely got spared. I unloaded my magazine into the bushes, man. I just and started making it back. I didn't run. I didn't want to run. Just trying to get up this hill to get back to my truck. And I get to the top of the hill. By this time, I've done took my magazine out of my pistol and put a fresh one in. I crossed the top of the hill and I heard it again on the side of me, man. I heard something grunt, loud grunt. I did this. I did the same thing, man. I emptied my clip, just emptied my whole magazine. Pulled that out. Didn't hear nothing kicking around in the bushes. It was just like I shot and it was gone. I shot and it was gone. I put another clip. I always carry 3 magazines with me.
Did you at any point hear any voice or see pictures in your, any mind thing going on?
No, nothing like that.
It was basically just that fast movement was the strangest part.
Exactly. I put my last clip in. I start walking and I come out on the road. I seen my truck. I got in my truck and I left. I didn't, it wasn't as crazy as the first time. I drove out of there responsibly and got home and put 2 and 2 together. Maybe it was, I don't know, man.
It's definitely life changing to experience this stuff, eh?
If you ever look at one of these things in the face, eye to eye, it'll change the way you look at the world. There's a lot to it, man. There's just so much that we don't know. And I'm just a Southern guy from South Mississippi, man. I live in a small casino town.
Yeah, don't let it stop you. Like I said, you weren't hurt, so I think you're fine.
Yeah, it's man, you think about it every day, man. You think about it every day. There's not a day that passes. I mean, I have a pretty busy life. I have my own business. I have a vending machine business, and that pretty much occupies all my time. Anytime you're a business owner, you're married to it, basically. But every day I think about it at least once.
When I had my close vocal encounter back in 2008, and it was close. It was like 3 whoops, and it filled the forest. That played on my mind for months, from the moment I woke up till I went to bed that night. Every day for months, that played over and over like a broken record. I could not shut it off, right? I was just absolutely, man. I knew what it was, even though I didn't see it. I knew.
Wasn't there, I can't remember, Mike, we talked for a while the other day. Was there a point where didn't you get a chance to see a piece of Neff or something, his face or something at one time?
I know what his face clearly looks like. So when you describe the eyes black, kind of almond shaped, and he's got black skin as well.
Yeah.
And he's got good teeth. Basically like you described. So
yeah. I didn't notice any fangs, canines. Maybe they have them. Maybe they were broke off. Maybe I don't remember seeing any canines. Some people say they have them. I didn't recall seeing them. That would have really freaked me out, and it would have stuck out in my mind if I would have seen something like that for sure.
Yeah, I've not seen that with Neff either. I've seen a smiling face, but like you're describing there. Yeah,
it almost looks like they're smiling all the time. Yeah, and that could just be the way the face is shaped. Who knows?
There's a long one. So I know this was obviously very traumatic. Have you considered doing a hypnotic regression session to recall more details? Don't blame you if you don't. And thanks for sharing your story.
People has come at me with that. Some good, some bad. Some people say it's really refreshing and it helps, and other people say it makes it worse for them to have to go back and relive it. But I mean, I'm going back to relive it now, just by telling it.
Yeah.
I'm I'm open. I'm open to it. I'll talk to anybody about it. I want the world to know.
Have you had any UFO experiences after that incident? Have you noticed anything like that?
Not. I tell you what, not since the encounter, but I can remember. Uh, I want to say I was in my 20s when I was in Iraq. I think I seen one. It was weird. It was up in the sky. It almost looked like a satellite, but the way it was moving back and forth, it was like, yeah, there's something to it. There's no satellite's gonna move that way. But it wasn't like up in my face. Hey, there's a UFO. It was just a strange looking object. Because out in the desert, at night there's not as, especially over there in a third world country, there's not as much light pollution. So
Yeah.
when it's nighttime, you see everything up there. Yeah.
I
For sure.
had 2 UFO incidents in July of 2018, 15 days apart. And
Wow.
yeah, and the first incident was put right in front of me. It was a cloaked ship, but the conditions were pristine so that I couldn't say, oh, well, it must have been a cloud passing over me or something, because there was not a cloud in the sky. 12:30 in the afternoon, I was driving past Pearson Airport in Toronto, going north. There's a whole bunch of lanes there. Maybe there's 10 lanes or something. I don't know. I had a transport truck just to my left, just ahead of me. And I think there was a vehicle behind that. I was just going with the flow of traffic, and suddenly this large shadow passed over top of me, just going slightly faster so I could notice it. And I did notice it immediately. And right away, I had that, WTF moment, because I didn't hear the plane engine that I expected to see when I stuck my head out the window, and there was nothing there. And then I got another one 15 days later at night. Again, pristine conditions. It's like they wait for the optimum conditions to put something in front of you. But I think once you connect to this stuff, other weird stuff starts showing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it definitely opens up doors for other paranormal stuff. What's really big down here, Mike? You hear, especially like Taylor, Mississippi. There's a lot of people talking about Dogman nowadays. It's coming out.
Yeah, I see a lot of talk about that too. I think this is where the whole werewolf lore stems from
Yeah,
originally.
yeah. And I've seen another. I can't remember which podcast it was. It was a couple months ago, but somebody was interviewing an abductee, and when he come back to, I guess they zap you and then bring you in, and he said on the ship these things were speaking, the whole telepathic. They weren't like speaking like me and you are. But there was one point where there was Bigfoot on the ship, and he asked him, "Hey, what are these guys doing here?" And they told him, "Don't worry about them. They're just helpers." So, I mean, hey, man, after what I've seen, I think anything's possible, man. I'm definitely not closed-minded to anything.
Yeah, that's
I'll give
the best way to be when dealing with this stuff. There are no experts. I doubt there ever will be, because look what we're dealing with. It's the unknown. We're dealing with intelligence that makes humans look slow and stupid. And
exactly.
yeah, it runs circles around us and do things with energy that, looks like magic, basically, right? So
A lot of people ask me, they're like, "Did you ever feel like sick or anything when you was up the tree?" I know what they're talking about now. They're talking about like infrasound and stuff like that. That the only thing that was really crazy is when he yelled real close to me, and I got to see his face basically melt. It was like he was close enough. The best way I can put it is, you ever been like close to like something exploding? I back in Iraq when a bomb would go off, it'd be a mile away, but you could still feel the heat off of it. I can feel the heat off of a screen, and
Wow.
I don't know, man. And I was it was just that was the worst part right there. That counter to me, just seeing his face do that. It was so paranormal, man. And you know, I went on Cliff and Bobo a couple months ago. And Bobo's pretty open to anything, but Cliff, he's pretty much flesh and blood all the way.
Yeah. Ape chaser.
Yeah.
You only get so far thinking like that, you know.
Yeah. What struck you about Carrie Arnold's personal experience and story? Oh, I'll tell you what, man. Me and Carrie were pretty good friends. He's from South Mississippi, like I am. I never knew who he was. When I did my encounter with Wes, he was like, "Man, there's a guy that lives pretty close to you, man. You need to talk to this guy." I talked to Carrie. Rest in peace. I became such good friends with Carrie that we would talk or at least text each other every day, and even if it wasn't nothing about Bigfoot, just life in general. When I found out that he had passed, that hit me hard, man, because he helped me out a lot. He really did. When I first told him my encounter and on the phone and stuff, he says he was just a great guy. He's one of them dudes. If you need anything, I don't care if I'm at work or whatever, you call me. If you need to talk to somebody, I'm here. He was just good like that. I never got to meet him in person. Never got to meet him because he worked a lot. He worked in an oil field in Texas, and anytime he was coming home, he would be home for like a day, and then he was shooting to Florida to do stuff with Mark Zasky. What struck me the most about his, I would say, his was a little different, man. He was turkey hunting. Do you know his encounter, Mike?
I don't remember the details, but when you're done telling this, I'm going to share something too about an interview I did with Carrie. So go ahead.
His was different, man. He was turkey hunting, and he was on this lease that he used to lease it. It was an old black family. So he had turkey coming in, and all of a sudden they bolted, and he starts seeing what looked to be like a black man coming through the creek, and he looked like he had camouflage on. Therefore, he is hunting, and he was pretty upset about it. Well, when the thing finally pulled itself up closer to him, he seen what it was, and what he thought was camouflage was actually mud all over the side of it, blended in. And he from afar, it looked like camouflage. And his didn't, the things, mine, every time I would draw down on it, it would turn its head to the side. When Carrie, he just went to grab like the trigger part of the gun to get ready. The thing actually blew at him like, no, you're not going to touch that gun, Everything about his is scary, man. The way he described it, everything about that was scary. The way it walked away from him, and just it walked away in the bush, but it never would. It was like walking away, but the way Carrie said it never took him out of his sight. He just kept his head over his shoulder as he walked away, looking at Carrie, just in case maybe he thought Carrie was going to shoot it in the back or what. And he said when he walked away, he said there was a game trail right there. He said the thing walked through the thickest stuff to go away when it could have just walked down the game trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty scary to it, man.
I did an interview with Carrie some time ago, and like the stuff I've experienced is just vastly paranormal, and I've learned they can manipulate our electronics, and I'm talking I've had my phone manipulated, video camera, I've had images, video clips, text stuff. It's insane. And so anyways, when I did this interview with Carrie, I told a wolf story about myself and Jen had run into a pack of wolves. This was in the dark at night, like 20 feet, and that that alpha male, his jaws were just snapping, and a very extremely scary moment. So when I told that story, there's a bark over top of the whole interview. If you can go online and find it. It's when Carrie interviewed me, right? So there's a bark, and then when somebody had asked a question later on and had asked me something to the effect of what I think they are, and I had mentioned something. It wouldn't surprise me. I, don't quote me if this is exactly how I said it, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were alien. And that voice comes back over and goes, "What?" And it's no, it was none of us, right? So
Right.
it's in the interview, right? And I'm convinced that we were being listened in on. So just one of the crazy things that have happened, right? So
I'll tell you a good one, Mike, if you ever want to hear a really good one. My friend, he's from the Panhandle of Florida, and the name of his channel, it's called Standing Goats Rescue. His name's Donnie Miller. He's got a lot of stuff, man. In order to get to his encounter, you would probably have to scroll down a good bit and look for it. But to me, that's the scariest I've ever heard in my life. But he had one behind him. He's not crippled. He can walk on 2 feet and stuff, but he broke his neck a long time ago. So he can't like run really fast or nothing like that. He had one behind him in a peanut field, pitch black dark, while the moon was out. And this thing was so close to him, he could feel it breathing on his neck.
did he have a visual?
Yeah, he turned around, man. He went to turn around, and he can no longer see a peanut field at night when the moon's out. The leaves on a peanut tree, the leaves kind of glow kind of like green the way the moon hits it. And he said when he turned around, he couldn't just jerk around because of his neck, but he had to like shift his body to get around. And when he looked behind him, he could no longer see the peanut trees. It was like everything was pitch black. It was him right there. And he didn't know what it was until he looked up and seen it. And he described it just like Carrie does and just like I do. Caveman looking face. Yeah. Square teeth. He said this thing was he said every now and then he would hear like a pound behind him. And what it was is this thing was, it wasn't hitting the ground, but it was just like throwing its fist down, and it sounded like a pound. It wasn't hitting the ground. Yeah, man, I'm not doing it no justice by telling it, man. You'd have to go to his channel. It's crazy.
I've slept in my tent. I have my special spot I like to go visit in the off season, I call it, when Dwayne and I aren't doing our thing, and they've come walking through camp a few times, and it's woken me up. Like they like to get you, they always like to surprise you, right? And the walk through camp has always been first thing in the morning before you wake up, and they've walked right past the tent, so close I feel I can reach it and grab an ankle that close, right? But you just feel the ground just rattling, basically,
Yeah, your guy Neff, he likes to do what used to catch me. Richard Harrington, I know Richard. We call him Cornbread. Has Mike seen any orbs since the encounter? I have not. Yeah, that's Rich. He's from Tennessee. He's trying to start his own stuff too. He's got a lot of good stuff. I'll send you a few pics that he sent me, a couple footprints, and he's got a bunch of structures and stuff. I'll send them to you.
Okay, Mike. I think he just reached out to me on Facebook there recently.
Okay. Yeah, he's a good guy. Where was I at? I was saying something.
Oh shit, sorry.
No, you're good. Oh no, I know what I was gonna say. When I first started watching your stuff, what used to creep me out was the way that Neff did that. It's like a WA, like a wah, like a wah wah. That man, I used to, my hair on my arms used to stand up when I first started watching that. I was like, God.
Yeah,
I
I
was
got a
like,
few recordings of them doing that. And
yeah,
and all those recordings, there's multiple family members involved. I think a lot of people aren't aware of this. I know that Neff is, I've heard him say sister with a bit of a lisp, you know, and then I have a recording of one of them actually saying Sasquatch says yeah, doing this crazy thing. Says
yeah.
Sasquatch, says the word Sasquatch. There's no lisp there, and
It all,
it's a
I'm sorry.
little difficult. What's that?
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's okay. So it's a little difficult to distinguish them sometimes, but it's like, okay, that's not Neff. That's, I think, an older brother. Because there's been quite a few prints shown to us over the years, right? Different sizes, different adults in the family, and um, at this point, they're placing prints right beside us in the in the snow. Um, uh, uh, I guess a more recent visit had another print appear directly right there beside me. It wasn't there seconds earlier, and then just about to give up and go back indoors and take a look, and there's a fresh print right there. So it's pretty incredible what they're capable of, and a lot of people that have these visuals that see they're just strictly flesh and blood. They, I can understand some of them have a difficult time accepting that they can disappear into thin air. According to Neff's family, he says they can all do it. Um, then you look at something like the Patterson Gimlin footage, and well, why didn't she do it? I don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know the answers, right?
Well, they're probably very in tune to using what we refer to as the sixth sense. I mean, we might have the same capability. We're just programmed not to know how to use it. I mean, we don't.
Yeah.
Um,
That's I've been told that. Like, I've asked them that. Can we do the same as they do? They confirm that. So something's either shut off or needs developed.
yeah. Yeah.
Once in a while throughout my life, I'll get little instances of telepathy. Somebody will say something that I've just heard in my head, or I remember I had an incident at this rehearsal place where I play music with some good buddies of mine, and we were talking about stones that help dissipate EMF uh, EMF waves, and my buddy said, "Yeah, there's this black stone. I can't remember the name of it." And suddenly, I heard, like, verbally, the word tourmaline in my head, like, loud and clear, and I said it out loud, and and then I looked it up right away. It's like, yeah, black tourmaline, man, that was right.
Yeah.
So we do have these abilities.
I noticed. I watched one of your videos the other day. I've seen it before, but it was the first time I've seen it in a while. It was looking. It was snow prints. You was looking at Neff stuff, and then the alpha showed his, and that is the biggest. That is a big foot track, man.
That was back in March 2015. It was 20 inches. I think it was 8 inches on the width. And then last year, a couple of years now, I can't remember, he's put an inch on. So it's now 21.
Did you end up casting that or no?
I know Dwayne's cast one. I didn't cast. No, I didn't. The print that he left, I can't remember. I remember at the time when the first time I'd seen his print, that was when there was some stuff going on, and they were they were showing me as a gift, basically, because they knew I wouldn't be going there for a while, right? And there was a slight snowfall, so I can't remember why I didn't cast that. It could have been it just wasn't feasible with what we had. I don't remember the situation, but But
Yeah,
yeah, that's big. That's a Bigfoot. Yeah.
yeah, no doubt about it, man. When I seen that, I was like, wow. I mean, a 20-inch footprint, what's that going to put him at? 10, 12?
Well, he was witnessed and photographed February 9th, 2013. Dwayne and I were on another piece of the property. His girlfriend was in the cottage, and he showed up. I think it was 150, 200 feet from the cottage, and she photographed him from inside, looking out through the window. Sadly, the mesh screen basically locked onto the focus, but you can still see him, and the bend in his knees. And I stood in the exact same spot the next week. We didn't go up there, out of respect. That was at the time is like, okay, let's not go up there, just to show respect, right? And so the next week I went and stood in the same spot, and some of the snow was still on in the same spot, and on some of the trees I lined the trees up as best as I could. And she said he was hunched, and she got to watch him. She estimated for about 5 minutes, and
A long time.
yeah, she went to step out the door to get a better shot, and he was gone, right? But he was hunched, and in that shot, I'm 6 feet, 180 pounds, a little heavier now, but um, you can barely see me in comparison to him. So he was about 11 feet in that shot, hunched. So he's probably close to 12 feet tall.
Oh, wow. That's that,
So
that's big. I've heard theories also, and it's interesting. We'll never know everything, but I think it was from a contactee like yourself. Um, Somebody was communicating with one and asked, "How come we can't ever get any good pictures of you, or why don't you like getting your picture taken?" And the response that this person got was something to do with they believe that if they reveal themselves like that, something will happen to their soul.
see, I think were they told that by the Sasquatch?
Yeah.
See, I have a difficult time with that. Um, I don't
Oh,
know.
it could be bullcrap. I mean, it's just something I picked up, probably YouTube or something I read. It wasn't told to me. I read it.
Yeah, there's a lot of I see a lot of speculation that people talk as a matter of fact, um, when they've had no contact experience, and
Oh yeah.
that's where you really start to learn, right? When you actually can communicate with them. So I see a lot of stuff put out there, and I think, well, how do you know? How do you know that, right?
Yeah.
Um, anyways, what's this? Sometimes it seems like they just want to move people out without harming them. Correct? Yeah, I would say so.
Could be, and maybe maybe he was doing the same thing I was doing. Because I was basically hunting a corridor, and I hunted this spot all the time because these deer, what they do is they would cross this power line and they would butt up against that field, but they don't come out there to eat or anything until it's dark. They're just smart like that. But I used to always have success because I would catch them right before dark, slipping across the power line to get over there, and I've killed a many a deer out of that tree, plenty of them.
Could have been interfering on
Uh-huh.
on his hunt, or
Yeah.
maybe he was waiting for deer or something and just digging for whatever at the time. Who knows?
Yeah. I was going to ask you something, Mike. I can't remember what it was. I think the question came up. There was something I was going to ask. Oh, so the $1,000,000 question. You yourself, what do you think these things are?
Um, well, I've been able to get some questions answered in writing, from multiple family members. I've asked them. Well, they are people. They have names, right? So they're human types. I've asked them, "Are you human?" They've stated yes and no. So that aligns with the mitochondrial DNA side and the nuclear being unknown. So I've tried to get their um, like who created them, and I was told as far as creator goes, we don't have the same creator as they do.
Oh, okay.
I'm just the messenger here, so I'm going to say that I'm going to say this because I asked them who created humans, and this might not sit right with some people, but whatever. I ask questions, and this is the answer I'm giving, right? So I didn't get an answer when I asked that, so I went home and I mulled it over, and I looked into some stuff, and I changed my question. And it seems sometimes I just have to change my question, right? And how I approach it. And I asked them, I said, did the Anunnaki create humans? And they confirmed that. And I said, do we have the same creator? And they said no. And so I don't know who created them yet at this point. But the more I learn, the more I see our history is just filled with lies. This whole system is just
Oh,
lies,
yeah.
built
Oh,
on lie upon lie, and I trust nothing anymore from government, from science, from NASA, from mainstream media. Nothing, nothing, absolutely nothing. Anything that comes out of the mainstream,
well,
if I'm going to get an answer, I want it from the source.
well, you
But I'll
know that.
say, sorry, I want to say at the same time, regarding what I just said there, that I do know there is an all loving, unconditional, all loving higher power out there, because I have had an experience of that as well about 25 years ago. I woke up from a series of dreams, and the third one, I was, I remember I was touched with this feeling of pure love that was unlike anything I had ever experienced. My head felt like it was connected to the universe, and I remember there is not a drug on earth that could touch this. That it was that powerful, and it wasn't just like a fleeting moment. It just lasted a week, and it slowly tapered, gently letting go, as unconditional love would do, right? So it felt godlike. I don't know what it was, but it was intelligence behind it. And so the whole thing with creation and that, I question everything at this point. Everything.
You have to. You have to. Um, what about like, have you ever asked them like what the dog men were or anything like that?
Yes, I did. Well, I asked them, are the dog man your people? They said no. And I said, are the dog man good? They said no. So that's
Okay.
all I got from that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. What
the,
about
the,
what about like extraterrestrial stuff? Did you ever ask them about that?
I asked them a question at one point about, I can't remember how I worded it, but something to the effect of if they interact with people from the stars, and they basically just kind of drew a little spaceship. That was all they did. So there's obviously there's cases out there where they've been seen coming and going from UFOs, and their grasp of consciousness and telepathy, and that ability, and you get the same from people that have been abducted, and or people who've had ET contact. It's the same with the telepathic stuff going on. So anything that would have that, they're all going to know about each other, right? It's just
Oh,
common
sure.
sense.
Sure. I just want to tell your audience, getting back to Carrie Arnold. Carrie Arnold, this was right. This is when I first contacted him. Pretty much, he actually wanted to go to my spot and do a documentary. It didn't happen. Work, stuff like that. So when that didn't happen, he told me, he says, Mike, he says, you need to tell people about this. He was basically telling me to do my own channel. I said, well, I'm going to need some help. I don't know how to, I'm not, I mean, as far as getting on a computer, I know how to do it with my business and place orders and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm pretty computer stupid, and never got around to it. Kyle Connolly from Encrypted Connections, he was close to Carrie too. He's the one that finally put the foot in my butt to get, and I do have a YouTube channel, guys. It's Red Creek Mafia. It is the only Red Creek when you put that in the bar, it's going to go straight to my channel. As far as I know, there's no other Red Creek Mafia. I have, shooting, I started off, shooting guns, stuff like that, hunting stuff. I'm on my 6th episode. My very first episode was Ron Moorhead. That was my debut. Hopefully when I get back from Illinois, I leave out for Illinois tomorrow. I'll be gone for about 10 days. But hopefully I'm going to get Mr. Mike Patterson on pretty soon.
Yeah, that's how we met, because you reached out to me, right? And then
yeah.
I ended up getting your story. I'm like, holy shit, man, you gotta come on.
Oh, man.
Be my first. So here's another question. Somebody's asking if you had any missing time.
Okay, this is a whole nother rabbit hole. We'll go down it though. So I had Robin on the other night. You know that. I told you I was having Robin on. You remember that?
Yep.
Robin McCrae.
Yeah.
Very well known in the Bigfoot field. She thinks I had 4 of them. I mean, I don't know. But there was a point, she asked me if I had any missing time that I can even think about. And it could just be me. Maybe it was no missing time at all. But I always get up my tree super early, okay? Like that day I was at the tree probably 1 o'clock. This encounter did not happen. I didn't start hearing this guy till like 4:10 or 4:15, okay? But it seems like when I sat down to hunt at 1 o'clock, there was no time and this happened. Coincidence? I don't know. It's just what's coming back to me.
I know that the hairy folk, they have this ability to, it's happened a few times to me now. The first time was after a week after my close vocal encounter. I went back in there and I heard the exact same chest thump tone I had heard the week before. So I knew they were right there. I had my camera, video camera, all that. And I was by myself. And next thing I know, I'm driving down the highway going home. And I shake my head wondering how the hell I got there. I don't remember leaving the woods.
That's awesome. Missing time, that's the only thing I can come up with. I had Robin McCrae on my channel the other night, and I tell you what, she was just spectacular, man. Have you ever had a chance to speak with her? Or?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I can't remember, maybe through text a little bit, but that would have been quite some time ago. But no, I haven't really spoken with her.
Yeah, I mentioned you to her. She likes you. She likes your style for sure.
Hey, we're all just looking for truth here, right?
Yeah.
No bullshit, right?
No bullshit. I am going to start doing a little something. I wouldn't necessarily call it researching, but I did go out and get me a decent camera. It's not a GoPro. It's the opposition to GoPro. They're all made in China, so it doesn't matter anyways. It's the DJI Action 3. I just got it. I'm going to start doing some walkabouts and stuff like that. I mean, we'll see.
Sorry, I just and I got another. Was that whistle ear piercing?
It was sharp, man. It wasn't like loud ear piercing, but it was sharp. It sounded very similar to a human whistle, but it was more sharp. And another thing, guys, I got to tell you this. this is another thing I realized. I've always had them around me, always. I just didn't know what it was. I've heard the whoops before. This is when I was a kid. I heard whoops hunting. I never thought it was a Bigfoot. I just thought it was some kind of nocturnal bird. As far as tree knocks, I've heard that all my life, and I've always blamed that on other hunters in the woods doing something. I appreciate the guys subscribing. I keep getting notifications. I appreciate you having me to on your show, to have your platform. I appreciate that, Mike. I really do.
I appreciate you coming on, Mike. Yeah, we're over an hour and a half here now, so maybe we can cut it here. I want to, give a big thanks to you for coming on and sharing your story with everybody. I'm sure they all appreciate it, and also thanks to Mike, Barb, and Leanne for doing the moderating for me. I think Barb might have had some problems getting on or something. She sent me
Can
something.
I say one more thing, Mike?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
This is nothing to do with the subject. Everybody that's in here that are American citizens, just please support your troops. Please support your veterans.
I would love to see the day when all armies around the world throw down their weapons and say "screw you" to their governments.
Yeah, I agree. But these people, Mike, a lot of these people that they get duped into joining, man, and that they don't know that the recruiter tells you that we're going to make you into this, we're going to make you into that. It's not their fault.
Right. All lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I go to the VA every month, and I see these kids that was over there in the Gulf War like I was, and the PTSD's got them to where they can't even leave the hospital. It's just bad. People walking around with no limbs. It's a horrible thing. I got lucky. I was in the middle of an IED blast, and I ended up having to get a back surgery because of it. But I'm walking on two legs, and I'm not in too much pain anymore. And I don't know if that's a gift from God or what, but there's a lot of people that wasn't as fortunate. Canadians too, man. They got Canadian vets too, man.
Yeah. But aside from that, we'll leave it on a more positive note. With again, I'm really happy you came on, and that's, like I said, that's the most detailed encounter I've ever heard. So I was really it was quite the story, and all the details, everything's the same as you shared with me the other night, as I knew they would be. I could tell you're telling the truth. It's pretty easy to see.
You know what? You have to be careful with people though, because I had a guy. I'm not going to say his name. Some people says I should put him on blast, but I'm not going to do it. I had a guy, and it's very unfortunate. I had a guy that supposedly he emailed me, and he had this incredible encounter. He told me he was like 50-something years old, this, that, and the other. So I started talking to him on the regular, kind of like I text you. And his mother ended up getting in contact with me and told me it was all bullshit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very believable. You have to be careful.
Yeah, definitely. There's certain things that folks will say that help me understand if it's real or not. Right?
Yeah.
So I hope to do more of this. Like I said, you're my first, being on this end of the thing. I've done a ton of interviews, but I've never done it this way before. So
maybe one day we can co-host together or something. Who knows?
Sure. Yeah. It's that make it easier on me again too. And in the meantime, I gotta get myself a better camera. But anyways, okay. So we'll leave it at that, Mike. And again, if you want to tell your channel again, where folks can get hold of you?
Yes, it's Red Creek Mafia 777. It's the only Red Creek Mafia, and then 3 sevens. The sevens is, that's biblical.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please
We'll leave it at that. And sorry, what was that? Sorry.
I'm just telling you, viewers, please subscribe. I've got a lot of nice stuff coming up. Definitely, we're going to have Mr. Patterson on. Hopefully sooner than later. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, everybody's heard my stuff 1,000 times.
Man, it's never enough.
It's it's ongoing, right? So, and like you said, sometimes little things come out that I remember. I wish I had documented more than I have, right? Because you don't expect so much. Like 10 years of visits, 100% activity on 100% of the visits. It's basically unheard of. But anyways, it's been a blast, Mike. Thanks for coming on, and thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody showing up. We had a good crowd on here tonight. So if I missed your questions, I apologize. It's difficult for me to stay on top of this stuff, right? So, but again, thank you everybody for showing up, and have an awesome night. All right, peace.